Hi guys, Darth Deuces here, back from our Star Wars The Vintage Collection action figure review. Today, taking a look at the relatively newly released and highly anticipated for me, and I'm sure many others, the Attack of the Clones Count Dooku. Now, I think this is the first realistic 3 3/4 inch Count Dooku figure we've gotten in like over a decade. I feel like the last one was released maybe in like 2009 in the Legacy Collection or something like that. Yeah, I don't know why Hasbro doesn't really like making figures of Count Dooku. Maybe they think he doesn't sell too well or won't sell too well. Maybe the older figures back in the past didn't sell that well. I don't know. But I've been very much looking forward to this. Count Dooku is one of my favorite characters from the prequel trilogy, and yeah, I think he's been very neglected when it comes to figures, so it's great to finally see him on the vintage card back. This is probably one of my most wanted figures for Hasbro to do on the vintage collection. He never even got a release in the original vintage collection run or anything like that, so it's really great to see. Anyways, taking a look at him on his card back first, I really like this card back actually. You get the Attack of the Clones logo there, Count Dooku. You got Dooku there in the bubble. I kind of like the blue, kind of matches with the Force Lightning. Pretty big, like the picture that they chose. You got Dooku there firing off the Force Lightning in the final duel scene. I don't know if this is specifically when he's fighting. I think this was probably when he's fighting Yoda, but it might be when he was facing off with Obi-Wan and Anakin first. I'm not sure. But very nice. And on the back, I do like the new/old style of back they're doing with the figure and the card back, and a little write up there in multiple languages. Would have had these figures like a month and a half earlier. I put my pre-order out with Amazon, and the Amazon pre-order was March 1st, and my order went out. It got all the way to my home city, the Amazon facility here, and then they said package was undeliverable, and then they sent it back and refunded me. They didn't even attempt to deliver it, so I don't know if it got all beat to hell in transit or there's just some random reason they didn't want to deliver it. But I had to put in another order with Amazon. It wasn't in stock right away, but they finally, I guess, got some more stock and sent it over. So yeah, really, really cool. But anyways, let's take a look at the figure outside of the packaging. All right, here we have Count Dooku out of the packaging, and it's a really great figure. It's pretty much everything I expected. It's not a perfect figure, but it's pretty good. I mean, I can safely say it's definitely the best 3 3/4 inch Count Dooku you can get. I think it's worth, if you have any of the old ones, I think it's probably worth upgrading to this one. And if you don't have a Count Dooku, then it's great. And for me, I only have 2 other 3 3/4 inch Count Dookus. One of the Clone Wars animated versions in the Clone Wars style, which doesn't work for a realistic collection, which mine mostly is. And I have I think the very first 3 3/4 inch Count Dooku they ever made, and I'll do a comparison later. When it comes to the scale, anyways, I have other scales of Count Dooku. But yeah, he looks really good. Getting in close with the head sculpt and the face print, I think they did a pretty good job. I don't think it's 100% there likeness-wise. I feel like Black Series, and I'll do a comparison. I think Black Series captured Christopher Lee's likeness a little better with the figure they released a number of years ago now. But this one's still pretty good. A lot of great detail. The print on the face, the eyes, and whatnot looks really good. I like the hair. It's not just like a stark like white. It's like gray with like white streaks in it. Gives it some texture and brings out the details a bit, which is nice. And the beard looks pretty good too. Although I will say, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it almost looks like a little bit of the flesh colors coming through on the beard. It was a little bit worse on my second copy, which is the one I'm keeping on card. But this one's not too bad. It's not really that noticeable because you can barely notice it on camera, but still. And he does feature a soft goods cape, which I do like when characters like Jedi and whatnot have soft goods cloaks. It allows you to keep the cape on while still being able to do lightsaber poses. It does look good in neutral. It drapes over his shoulders really nicely. It's got the nice silver little string there to replicate his chain. It does have the lighter color on the inside and then darker on the outside, but isn't super thick or unwieldy looking. I know there's older Count Dooku figures where they did the inverse, the color on the inside and the outside, but it resulted in the cape being really thick and awkward looking. Not so here. However, There is one issue I have with the figure, and it's that the cape at the shoulders, it rides too high up on his head, up his neck. Like it goes up like right to the back of his head. Like it really shouldn't do that. It covers up. It should sit a lot more naturally on the shoulders, a lot more flush, and it doesn't do it. I don't really know how you'd fix that problem. The only thing I think of is gluing it in place, but then you wouldn't be able to remove it, and some people might not like that. Like I'd like it if it was like this. This looks right, or pretty close to right. But if you're not like pulling it down in the front, or if you're trying to pose them in more dynamic poses, it rides right up. Maybe if they put the string maybe a little lower, I don't know. But yeah, you kind of gotta futz with it a little bit, and then even then, sometimes it still doesn't look right. So something to keep in mind. Right now, I got it looking pretty good, but like the moment that you pose his arm outwards, okay, well, I actually thought that would have, that's actually staying in place. I wasn't expecting that, but if you have him doing some crazy posing, like you have both arms going out, doing something, I don't know how to like get this, but you can kind of see when you're posing his arms a lot, it gets all right bunched up in the back, and there's not really a ton you can do about that. It just is what it is, and it's the cost of using a soft goods cape, I suppose. It's not a huge deal. I think I still prefer this over plastic for this character, but yeah, something to keep in mind. But like I mentioned, you can't actually remove the cape. It's not tied down or anything, so you can just remove it, which maybe it should be. Maybe that'd probably fix a lot of the issues I have with it, but you can remove it. You can not have the cape on, and while he never appeared like this in the movie, he does look like this from time to time in the Clone Wars, so it's a look some people might want to, display him in. But aside from that, the figure is honestly kind of basic, but I do believe all brand new tooling. But yeah, you got the arms there, look good, and got the belt relatively cleanly painted. His lower tunic is made of a softer plastic, so it will get out of the way of articulation, and it does have cuts on it both sides to do so. And then the legs, pretty basic, brown pants with like really dark brown boots. The only thing I will say is they went with a dark brown tunic. I'm pretty sure that's incorrect. If looking on the card art on the packaging, looking at stills from the film, and using the Hot Toys figure as reference, and I usually consider Hot Toys to be like the epitome of accuracy when it comes to replicating a character's costume into figure form. They all to make the tunic completely black. He's got a black tunic and then the dark brown pants. And even in like animation, you can tell that the tunic is definitely a different color than his pants. But they just didn't do that here. It's all the same. And the Black Series does the same thing as well. And a lot of 3.25-inch figures actually do that from Hasbro. I don't know why. The Hasbro 12-inch figure with soft goods clothes had a black tunic, but a lot of their 3.25-inch figures go with this dark brown. I'm not sure why. I am 90% sure it's supposed to be a black tunic. It's not a big deal. It doesn't really bother me. I know it kind of sounds like it bothers me a lot. It really doesn't, but I just think it's worth mentioning that it is, I think, a bit inaccurate. But that's fine. Still looks good. In terms of articulation, you have the dumbbell joint in the neck, but he doesn't really look up a whole lot. Doesn't even really look down a whole lot. Not a lot of pivot, but you do get rotation. It's honestly a bit more limited in neck articulation than I was expecting. Not a big deal, but yeah, something to keep in mind. Shoulder hinges and rotation works really well. Single hinges at the elbows. I do kind of wish these bent in a bit further. They go just about 90. It would have been nice if they were a bit deeper. It's not a big deal though. And you get rotations at the wrist and up and down hinges for both wrists, which is great because he definitely needs that for lightsaber posing. So that's good that they chose the right hinge joints for that. Do have like a ball joint at the torso that doesn't really go back that much. Crunches forwards, not a whole lot honestly. Does pivot an okay amount, and then rotation. You have the ball joints in the hips, so you can kick them all the way out pretty much. The plastic doesn't get in the way. It doesn't really go back. You can do pretty solid splits. The only thing to keep in mind is if you're going to keep this figure in a dynamic pose with his legs for a lengthy amount of time, it will kind of start to shape the plastic of the lower tunic, so something to keep in mind. solo cuts at the thighs that are pretty decently hidden by the skirt piece or the tunic piece and help to get some more dynamic posing out of your legs. Single hinges at the knees that go about 90, which is fine. Hinges at the ankles that go up an okay amount, down a lot, and then rockers for ankle pivot. So good articulation. It's definitely the best articulated Count Dooku in this scale. Could be some minor improvements here and there, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. It's not too bad. In terms of accessories, of course he does have to have his lightsaber. Nice vibrant red blade and a pretty well painted hilt with some black, silver, and then a little bit of red for the switch there. Of course, he can hold it pretty much exclusively in the right hand. The left hand's actually more of an open, like force choke kind of pose or something. So he can kind of hold the lightsaber in the left hand, but it's really loose. But he has a solid grip in the right hand, which, I mean, makes sense. He's right-handed. That looks really good. And the up and down hinge really helps a lot to get some really great posing out of that. He does also come with an unlit lightsaber hilt, which I want to say is the first time a Count Dooku 3¼ inch figure has ever come with this. I could be wrong, but it's got the same paint apps that the lit blade one has, but this one has no blade and has a peg. He does have a hole, and you can peg that on his belt nice and securely, nice and easy. That looks really good, and like I said, I think that's the first Count Dooku to actually have that feature. Let's put the cape back on real quick. And that looks pretty cool. I like that. I'll keep that on there for now. And then the last accessory, which is pretty cool, because honestly I would have expected just those two to be included. It actually comes with an interchangeable right hand, and you can put in this hand with the light force lightning effect on it. Have him blasting the force lightning like in the movie, which I think is super cool. This is, I think, the only reuse of this entire figure. This hand comes from the Return of the Jedi Vintage Collection Emperor Palpatine from a year or two ago now. You just get the right hand, which I guess makes sense because I think he only ever used his right hand for the force lightning in the movie. I don't think he ever used both hands or anything like that. Although I will say I do wish they would have just included the second hand anyways, just so you have the option of one side or the other, or to have both hands firing the lightning. But still, I'm glad we get just the one-handed all, honestly. So, pretty cool. I'm going to take that out, put his normal hand back on, because now I will do some comparisons. So, I guess first I'll do the Black Series one. We got the Black Series one a number of years ago now, but it's still one of my favorite Black Series figures. And they're both very similar, but I think I do like the Black Series one better. I think the Black Series one, the cape, looks a bit better on the Black Series one, and it's gonna be a little tough to let me rotate this down. It's gonna be a little tough to me show both faces, but I do think the Black Series head, I think, has a better likeness to Christopher Lee. I think it's just maybe at the larger scale, it's a bit better, easier to get kind of all that age and detail of his face in there a bit better. But they're both pretty good. So there's that. And yeah. Oops. That's how they stack up. And next up, with the only other realistic 3¾ inch Count Dooku I have, this is, like I said, I think the very first Count Dooku figure Hasbro ever made. Probably like the Attack of the Clones line or whatever. And honestly, in terms of just look, the old figure is really not bad. I think it had a pretty good head sculpt and paint for what it was. Like, I think that does look like pretty good to Christopher Lee. Considering it's like a 2002 figure or something like that, like it's over 2 decades old. He has a lightsaber and all that, but the problem was with this figure is that he was basically pre-posed. He had a action gimmick where he slashed down, and there's like a couple points of articulation, but basically he's not really posable. So he was my stand-in for a long time, but I'm glad to be able to finally replace him with the new one. But there's that. Then for fun, just for some other characters that you maybe just want to display the figure with, here he is with the old TVC Darth Sidious from the Phantom Menace. and I think they look actually pretty good together. I'm not sure how hard it is to get that Phantom Menace TV or Darth Sidious anymore. I'm assuming he's still pretty cheap. He was part of like one of the most produced waves of vintage collection I think ever. Phantom Menace wave was not hard to get, but they look good together. I like that. Here he is with some of his Legends Dark Acolytes. Here he is with the old Toll Score. And here he is with from the same comic pack, the Asajj Ventress. I have to have her on a stand because she doesn't stand very well on her own, but Count Dooku would be a little bit taller than her. I think that looks pretty good. I think he's appropriately a bit taller than both. And it's just cool to have them next to an actual good-looking Count Dooku figure. Or modern Count Dooku figure, I guess. And then lastly, I just thought of it when I saw him on my shelf. Here he is with the TVC General Grievous, who is appropriately really big next to him. And still a great figure, but I just thought of it when I haven't touched this General Grievous figure in a long time. But I wouldn't mind seeing a new Grievous. I know they're going to make him a deluxe release if they do, but the old one's good, but it definitely needs some improvements, and it'd be cool to see what they can do with the modern engineering. But these guys look really good together. But overall, pretty happy with this release. Like I said, a long time coming. One of my most wanted characters for Hasbro to make a new figure of. I think they delivered. Does he have some issues? Yeah, I mean, most figures are going to have some issues anyways. He's not perfect, but I will say I do think he is the best 3 3/4 inch Count Dooku figure you can get. So if you're interested in getting a Count Dooku for your 3 3/4 inch collection, look no further than the new TVC Count Dooku. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video. May the Force be with you.